advancement of women and the localization industry. And we do that by our values, which is building a community. And we do that by supporting each other, empowering contribution, committing to a common cause, and then also offering the feeling of being belonged, which is pretty unique. And I can tell you from coming to Women in Localization for the past 4 years, it's been a really great experience. So if you're not a member yet, please join us. You can go to www.womeninlocalization.com, sign up. If you want to join the Silicon Valley chapter, please go to our meetup. We have a pretty good history there, so we communicate with our members directly. We invite you to all of our events, and then we also share really nice pictures. So please join us on our meetup. And we want to thank our event sponsors. So Verizon Media, thank you so much for this amazing venue. Have you seen the view outside that way? Don't get too distracted. And then MemSource for the food for everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you. And then we're going to start off with Verizon Media sharing a little bit of introduction for what's going on. Yay. So I'm going to have Marina.
No, okay. Nothing to click on. All right. Hello and welcome to Yahoo, I'd say. Well, Verizon Media, of course. I hope you feel excited being here, not only because we are opening season 2019-2020 of Women on Localization, but also because you are on site of one of the most iconic companies in the Valley. It was founded in 1994 by two PhD Stanford graduates, Jerry Yang and David Philo. And it was called, who knows how was it called at that time? It was called Jerry and David Guide to World Wide Web. And then when the site grew in popularity, it was renamed to Yahoo. And I wonder if any one of you knows what this acronym stands for. Well, that's hard to pronounce, but it stands for Yet Another Hierarchical Officious Oracle. And I'm not sure the story is true, but we might not ever find out. So in these 25 years of its existence, we not really just built technologies, but we also mentored and grown a lot of tech leaders that you probably know. Just to name a few of Yahoo alumni, Ripple CEO Brett Garlinghouse, founders of WhatsApp, late SurveyMonkey CEO David Goldberg, GoDaddy CEO Blake Irvin, Etsy CEO Chad Richardson, Slack CEO Stuart Butterfield, and the list goes on and on. And I see some Yahoo alumni here, Michelle, Ping, G. I see a lot of people here. Well, thank you. Thank you for coming. I have to pick at my list. So the theme of tonight's gathering is disruption and technology. And speaking about disruption, I don't think there is any other company in the Valley that has as many as we had. We've seen a lot of CEO coming and going. We've seen mergers, acquisitions, transformations, reorgs. But we call them evolutions because they only make our sales team tougher, our engineering more creative, and us just more resilient. Our marketing department is never bored because when they start rebranding, they already have another marketing copy in the works. So it's never a dull moment here. We are now probably, you know, part of Verizon, one of 3 pillars of the company that is really big. And we are called Verizon Media. Verizon Media is producing and therefore localizing a lot of content. So we definitely proud of what we do here. And that brings me to announcement that we are hiring. We are looking for a talented, creative linguist for Spanish, for LATAM. And also that person should be able to carry another hat of a product owner. So if you are that person, please do contact us. And you would be joining small, centralized, but mighty localization team. We are currently all women. And you're going to be fortunate to meet some of them today. And let me introduce Aline Pereira, who is one of those talented, creative product owners, managers, linguists, who I have a pleasure to work with every day.
Sorry, this is so high. She said product owner, but she meant program manager. she was nervous. So, hi everyone, thanks for being here. I'm one of the localization program managers here at Verizon Media. So, localization has always played a very important role in the iterations of our company, helping us reach millions of users globally. So having dozens of products and services under our belt and hundreds of teams spread all over the world pose many localization challenges and opportunities, as you can imagine. So these are just some of our brands. You can see here behind me. So we have to be agile. We have to be able to shift gears very quickly. So having a self-serve localization platform and a centralized team really help us do that. So now I invite you to try to imagine the localization needs of a company this massive, both in terms of volume as well as in terms of types of content. Throughout our history, we have had 91 unique products and services, some of them available in 51 languages and 79 locales. We provide translation and transcreation services. We localize B2B and B2C materials, marketing and editorial content, videos and multimedia presentations. And each type of content requires a slightly different localization approach. Sounds pretty crazy, right? And speaking of some things that require different approaches, marketing content is one of those things. So marketing is a very different beast. It requires different talent, different workflows, and it requires transcreation and adaptation instead of just translation. And so recently we went through a thorough selection process to identify a new marketing localization vendor. And now we are working with an agency that specializes in transcreation. We are currently in the process of developing a dedicated marketing localization program with new requirements, workflows, and best practices to help us deliver the best marketing localization quality possible. This is something we're very proud of. I would love to talk to you more about it another occasion. So just to show you, can you click the next slide, please? Just to show you a quick example, behind me you can see some assets from a seasonal Yahoo Mail campaign that we localized for 10 markets and which performed very well for us. You can see that not only we transcreated the text, but we localized the images to make them fit the season and the user profile in each market. Even the color schemes and the design of the call to action button in some cases were changed. So we ended up with truly localized assets that resonated in each market. So through lots of hard work and evangelizing, we put localization in the roadmap of our products. And we are now involved from the very beginning of the process, which means we can have customized go-to-market plans, and we are able to flag potential issues very early on in the process. In many cases, it's still at the design stage to avoid localization blunders, delays, and extra costs. So as you can see, there isn't a dull moment if you work in localization at Verizon Media. Now my wonderful colleague Stephanie will tell us a little bit about our company culture. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, my wonderful colleague, Alini. Hey, I have the great pleasure to talk about something I'm really passionate about, and that's, of course, apart from localization, company culture. So, you know, Yahoo was very well known for having a good, is this very loud? Yeah. For having a good atmosphere, good work environment, and it has kept this even as we grew into something else. We had a name between Yahoo and Verizon Media. I don't know if you guys recall the internationally totally impossible name to pronounce, which was Oath. Everybody struggled with that. But both in Yahoo and AOL, which then grew together into Verizon Media, this was a very well-known fact that there is a great company culture. And as the saying goes, be kind to all kinds, which is one of my favorites. This is really actually something that we practice here every day. And you will feel that if you walk around here in this company. We have this manifested also as many big companies. I know that a lot of companies have ERG, the Employee Resource Groups, and we have many of them, from Women Inclusion Network, how it's called here, to Neurodiversity Group and PRISM, which is Lead with Pride is their motto. They're all very much supported and encouraged by the leadership, and we have worldwide organizations for these, because we don't only have US offices, we are a global player. Transparency is very big in the company too. We have a bi-weekly open house here, held either in New York City, which is our other headquarters, Sunnyvale, New York City, and it's live. You can ask any question you want, and the CEO is there to, and most of the leadership team is there to answer any of your questions, which I find always pretty amazing. And then, of course, there's tons of events. You may have seen this signage out there for the Great Build, which is coming up on Thursday this week, where every employee can volunteer at a nonprofit organization of their choice, and it's a full day. I know all of the big Silicon Valley companies do that, but I think it's really something that is totally worth the while, and I really enjoy that every year when it comes along. Next thing, hackathon. Of course, we have some a whole bunch of engineers here who are very much into this, but our hackathon is really very inclusive. Anybody can sign up, and anybody can find a partner there to work on, you know, the next big thing in tech, or how we are going to change the world. Sorry. And of course, there's a ton of other initiatives. We have a culture force group here that takes care of any issues and brings those up to the management to work on. And we have a happy hour with our dear guru, our CEO, every like 2 weeks or something, and internal events where we present new products. Instead of saying so much, and I got very much inspired by my former colleague, Paola, who is here as well. She made a little video when she parted, and I was very, very tempted to just use that video, and instead, being inspired by her, I tried myself with the help of Apple. And this is a very short, brief minute of video that I wanted to share with you, just so to give you an idea of who we are and what we stand for. And with that said, as Marina and Alini said, we are hiring. Hello. It is Spanish for now, but there will be more to come. Latin Spanish for now, more to come. And the last I wanted to say is a really huge shout out to Rosalie. She is the tech person here for us tonight, but her being here represents for me what this company stands for. She's not in our team. Doesn't get paid for this or anything. She just knew we had this going, and she knew I was really not good at tech, and she is. So like, this is why she's here, and this reflects what this company stands for. Thank you so much.
forgot some things earlier. So one, this event is being recorded, so you'll be able to see it later. The other thing is I forgot to mention our lovely volunteers at the sign up from High Tech Passports. So we had a lot of volunteers helping out with the check-in process and helping out with everything. So thank you very much. All right, so starting with the lightning talks. Who heard about lightning talks before? Lying, there has to be more. We had lightning talks before. It was really fun. Had great turnout, so we're still continuing with the lightning talk event. For those who are not familiar with it, it is 6 to 8 minutes of a talk. 6 to 8 minutes informal presentation about one specific topic. The topic this event is providing is disruptive technology and innovations. I think we scared away a little bit of people because of the disruptive technology, but I can tell you we have a great panel of speakers sharing their outside of the box processes they have and all their good efforts that they tried with their teams and have great results. So further ado, I'm gonna first show our speakers. We have 6. Marit is presenting remote, so that's gonna be interesting. And thank you so much for our speakers for joining us and making the time to come and present. With that said, I'm going to start with Evelyn.
Hi, everyone. My name is Evelyn. I'm a technical localization manager from Gap Inc. And I'm also a part-time graduate student of computer science at Georgia Tech. So my topic today is user-generated content, or UGC, and its challenges and opportunities. So UGC covers a lot of different types of content. For example, blog posts, Amazon product reviews, and YouTube videos can be all examples of UGC. But for the sake of time, I'll mostly cover product reviews on the website. So business these days know that the importance of UGC, and they use it in marketing a lot. However, when it comes to multilingual UGC, in other words, user reviews written in non-English languages, we are not quite at the level of using the full potential of UGC. So let's talk about why it's challenging to process UGC and what solutions we have and what ultimate goals we want to achieve by processing multilingual UGC. To elaborate my points, let me bring you 3 real-world examples. So the first example is that you're working for a global retail company, just like me, and you're tasked with localizing their e-commerce website for the European market. So you go to the website and figure out what type of content you have. The first text you notice is 40% off everything. It's promotion. So you go to the promotions team and they say that it's updated weekly and the content is in English. So you know how to translate this. The next thing you notice is Gap Fit Breathe Tank Top. It's a product name. So you go to the product team and they say that it's updated daily and there is a product information management system, and the information is fed by that system into the e-commerce system. So you have the data and you know how to translate. The next part says add to bag. So it's a built-in button, part of the e-commerce platform. So you go to the engineering team and you get the file to translate. At the bottom of the website, you find a lot of text. And the author can be tens of thousands of your European consumers. The content, the volume is very high, frequency unpredictable, and it can come in German, French, Italian, many European languages. So how do you go about this? Because of all the challenges of localizing UGC, it's very hard to justify using human translators for this. So virtually the only viable solution left is using machine translation. Now, I want us to take a moment and think about what it means that we have a large volume of content and machine translation as the only viable option. Is it a limitation or an opportunity? I'd like to say it's an opportunity for us because machine translation is one of the many natural language processing techniques powered by machine learning. And if you can apply MT to your data, you can apply other NLP techniques, such as keyword extraction, sentiment analysis, and many more. For example, if your reviews mention fabric a lot, they say, oh, this fabric feels so soft, it's breathable, I love it. Then you can extract fabric as the keyword, and the sentiment around it is positive. If reviews mention sizing a lot, the sizing is a little bit off, it does not fit me well. Then you can extract fit and sizing as the keyword, and you know the sentiment around it is negative. So with all these new tools in mind and with a lot of data, now let's think beyond localization. What's your ultimate goal of using UGC? In short, I would say that there could be two goals. First is increasing customer engagement by providing more information to your customers in the language they can understand. The other part is using UGC for business analytics by translating the voices of your global audience into English so that you can hear more from your global audience. With these two goals in mind, let's move on to the second real-world example. So this time, your task is not just localizing. You are tasked with building trust in your product using UGC. How are you going to go about this? Are you going to translate every review in every language your consumer speaks? Well, there was a study about this topic, and they wanted to look into if providing more reviews, even in foreign languages, will help build trust in your products. And what they found out was very interesting. The finding is that there is a group of consumers who care about reviews, even in foreign languages. And for these people, providing more user-generated content helps build trust in your products. And there's a company who implemented the finding. If you go to Airbnb website, you will find the translate button in their user review section. Okay, so the final real-world example. This is an open-ended question. I just came up with it myself. So let's say you're working for the same e-commerce company, and your company found out that last quarter, your sales went down in Italy, and all you have is the user reviews written in Italian. What do you do with this? If I was given this task, I would probably try some NLP techniques I introduced and see what I can find from there. Well, you might think that, well, Evelyn can think of that solution because she's an engineer. She can build tools. Is that true? Not necessarily, because there are readily available NLP tools over cloud, such as Google Natural Language, and they support 10 languages, including Italian. So I would run some keyword extraction and sentiment analysis, and I would translate that the findings in English into the findings in Italian into English so that I can understand. To summarize, with the high volume of UGC, we are given a new opportunity to process that and achieve our business goals. And to get the most out of the multilingual UGC, I'd like to encourage everybody to set goals and be open-minded about new tools. And by doing this, I believe that we can expand our perspective as a localizer. Thank you. And by the way, if you're interested in the studies I mentioned, here is the reference list. So let me hand the mic over to the next speaker, Glory from Salesforce.
Hi, everyone. I'm Glory. I'm a localization program manager from Salesforce. Today, my topic is how to nail voice-over localization without previous experience, pretty much alone. So before I joined Salesforce, I worked for a a small startup gaming company. And I was the solo ninja handling localization alone in-house. And I got to wear many hats. And then I saw the content team working on a really cool video. It was a story of a character. And I was like, I want to localize that, but I want to add dubbing. And then our CFO was like, no, Glory, I don't have money for you. So you know what? I'm going to make this happen. Just trust me. I'll do this under budget on time. And I did it. And there was a lot of trouble, a lot of troubleshooting, a lot of challenges. So when Laura reached out to me for this amazing opportunity, I thought this could be a really cool topic. So today, from my lightning talk, I hope you can learn the process of video localization. My best target audience is like someone who hasn't done it but would like to do it, and likely, have resource constraints. And then we'll go over what kind of challenges you may encounter during the video localization process. And then I'll share my tips and hacks on how to deal with those challenges and nail it. All right, so let's think about the process. Should be easy. First you translate, and then you hire the voice talent, and then you record it. And then once you get the recorded files back, you add it to the media asset. And then you edit it to make sure everything works. Sound, animation, caption, everything should be aligned. And then publish. Easy, right? If only it was that easy. So here are the challenges. Marketing deadlines are crazy. I call my marketing colleagues marketing people. Their deadlines are always ASAP. So when do you need it by ASAP? So yeah, you have very short time given for the whole look process because marketing deadline is already short, so that pressures the editorial team already. And then I have even shorter time frame. And then English script may change last minute. Why? The voice talent, they're amazing. So they could come up with this crazily, insanely amazing ad-lib line. And of course, the writer wants to take that. Or the writer just changed their mind, whether before the recording or during the recording or after the recording. Translations can be longer or shorter. It's not just the text that we always have this kind of problem, right? UI or whatever. But for voiceover, you also have this trouble. So it can cause issues like long silences or no break between the lines. And then I've had issues where the German voice actor had to speak super fast. Super fast. And it was for tutorial. And I was like, nobody's gonna learn how to play this game. And on top of that, of course, we have low budget. Localization always have a low budget. So how did I manage those challenges? And how would you manage those challenges? Are you worried? How are you gonna do this? How are you gonna tackle this? Oh, I didn't click the thing. Oh, here you go. Thriller. So how are we gonna tackle this? Hakuna Matata. What does it mean? It means no worries for the rest of the days, right? So don't worry, I got you. First, start with getting referrals on studios, preferably local to region. Not only they can provide excellent client support, but they're pretty budget friendly. I was really surprised. And fast turnaround was absolutely amazing. My local studio in Korea, they could turn around in a week. A week. That's from casting to delivering the files. It was pretty cool. Second tip, communicate the deadlines clearly. So sit down with your stakeholders, writers, whoever is involved to make sure you get the script on time, get the files implemented on time. Sit down with them, educate them, and clearly communicate the deadlines and your goals. And minimize the back and forth and do-overs by working directly with the stakeholders. So join the recording session if you can, because you know the content better than the voice talent or the directors. You don't have to go to the local studio. I mean, it's great if you can fly over for the recording studio, get your approval, from your manager. That would be awesome. But you can just call in. A lot of studios, they have the actual recording voice talent actually call in and record as well. And then work directly with the video editors and sound engineers. They don't speak those languages. We might or may not, but we understand the traits of those languages, right? We know the length, duration differences and things like that. So work with them directly and guide them through, okay, start this line earlier or remove the silence between these lines. You can guide them and just like point on their monitors and guide them through. And automating part. So if you request the recording studio to name the VO files, which is line by line, right? Exactly the same as English versions, implementation is so much easier and fast. You can automate that. You can have the engineer automate that. And then for the caption, and also for the script for recording, transcribe the English script and translate in SRT format. SRT, because it is a standard subtitle format supported by various translation and video editing tools, including YouTube. So once you're done in-house work, and then when you want to publish, you just simply upload the SRTs that are translated to YouTube, and then you can publish at the same time, worldwide. So all this juggling and being this much hands-on, is it worth it? It's totally worth it. Totally worth it. Can you feel the love from our players? So here are the actual fan reactions on social media that I collected. I hope they are praises. There's some, I think there's like cursing over there. It was a short animation based on a character story that is like kind of like a Maleficent, like a evil queen, and we were introducing her story. Why did she become evil and things like that? Like think about that Disney movie, very, very similar kind of plot. Our players, they got chills from watching the video. It was like 2 minutes long or something, and I got chills during recording session. Not kidding. I don't speak Indonesian, I don't speak Russian, but when we were recording, I got chills. And then when I said, oh my God, I just got chills. And then the sound engineer, who has no idea about this character, right? He's the outsourcing sound engineer. He was like, I got chills too. But this was one of the best experience I've ever had in my career, really. So back to that 6-step process, but with my tips and hacks added. So if you wanna get a takeaway, take a photo of this. So if you follow these steps, you should be able to simultaneously ship the content fully localized with dubbing worldwide, on time and on budget. My name is Glory, and thank you so much. The next speaker is Marit from SurveyMonkey.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes?
Awesome. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Marit Luke, and I'm a content strategist with SurveyMonkey. And today I'm going to be talking about how you can listen to customers to improve localization quality and governance. Next slide. Alrighty, so I'm a content strategist. I don't work on the localization team. What is content strategy, you might ask? Basically, it's using words to present the right information to the right people at the right time. Next slide. So I spend the majority of my day writing Help Center articles. The Help Center informs customers how to use an online survey platform, in this case, SurveyMonkey. And the Help Center is a self-service tool targeted towards the majority customer. So for years, the majority customer has been an American English audience. And we write our source content in American English and then localize it into 5 other languages, which are our top non-English languages where we have the most customers. Next slide. So SurveyMonkey is an international company and an international product. We have a stellar localization department leading our international strategy and localizing our product, marketing, legal documents, and other content. Help Center localization, however, is completely different, and I'm the one who manages that process. So about that process, basically, we push our content through our content management system via the Linguist Now app, and then our localization vendor gets that, go ahead and localizes it, and returns it in the backwards process. Help Center content does not get any kind of linguistic quality assurance, but it's a reliable and sustainable solution to have this process because of our good relationship with the localization department, translation memory, and also the key fact that Help Center happens after product is localized. So things like glossary terms, the linguistic QA done to product, and style preferences go ahead and trickle down into the Help Center. Next slide. So a few months ago, I had the great opportunity to attend my company's localization summit in Ireland. This was a good opportunity for some knowledge sharing, strengthening cross-functional relationships. We were able to align on process and learn from our siloed success stories and find gaps where we can do better together. Next slide. So I returned home from this summit and I was totally energized. This was the highlight of my about 3-year role on the content strategy. And why was I so excited? It wasn't because the health of Help Center content was actually pretty good, both the source content and the localization or localized version. But instead it was because I just learned so much simply from learning or listening to my customers, excuse me. So I think I have 2 types of customers. There's external SurveyMonkey customers, but then also my internal cross-functional stakeholders. From all of my customers, both external and internal, I was able to better understand the cultural and language-specific customer trends and preferences that are necessary in the different types of writing that we have. Next slide. So I had this realization or an aha moment. Basically, I needed to make customer-centric Help Center improvements for a global audience. There's long-term value in creating natural and supportive experiences for customers, regardless of what language they're looking at us in. And while the majority customer might not be the non-English customer at the moment, the company is scaling, and the Help Center can really impact the retention metrics if we have good, natural, supportive content for our customers to use. The good news is our source content is already globally friendly. It's primed and ready for localization, and my team likes to call this our version of internationalization. However, I noticed that our content strategy really needs to scale along with the company. We need to offer globally delightful experiences. We can't just focus on American English customers. Next slide. So my challenge is really, how can I improve the help center localization quality while maintaining the amount of time I spend and the resources, money spent on help center localization? I think there's two keys to this. The first is listening to your customers. We really need to lean in to our good cross-functional internal relationships, specifically with our dual language support customer service reps. The dual language support reps they know our customers the best. They're interacting with them on a daily basis, and they're using the help center to help customers understand their product. So they're great advocates for the help center. We also need to use non-English data. For years, we've been looking at data, but really focusing on English data. Now we need to pull that data for other languages to understand who is viewing the help center and how they're interacting with it. Next slide. So I really need to figure out how to make small changes with a very big impact. Some of the examples that we're starting to implement are, one, process improvements. So we need to identify gaps in workflows for process improvements. Since the summit, for instance, we've aligned on workflows and expectations with those dual language CER or support reps, excuse me. And since that summit time, we've gotten an increase in really impactful tone and consistency improvements for the help center. Another example of ways that we can implement innovative solutions is to run experiments, to find out what works and then what doesn't, and focus our time and energy on what does work. So we're trying out some selective linguistic QA of the help center content to see if it can improve deflection. So people who read the help center don't necessarily contact support. We're also testing out if we customize a specific localized version's search. So if we're localizing or customizing the search bar results, hopefully it helps enhance the user experience and also improves help center functionality. We're also trying to measure help center localization quality. So we can send out surveys, we are a survey company after all, to our dual language support customer service reps. And they can give us more information about those cultural and language specific trends. We can go ahead and track the localization quality through them and then monitor whether our governance strategy is working. So after we run some of these tests, my goal and hope is going to be that we refine our help center content strategy for my team and make sure that the help center content for 6 different languages is simple, human, and helpful. Next slide. And that's it for me. Thank you. I'm sorry I was sorry I had to present remotely, but I appreciate your patience. And now passing the mic back to Rachel.
Thank you. Okay. Okay. Good evening. My name is Rachel Taylor. I'm the Senior Director for Customer Success at LanguageLine Solutions based in Monterey. Sure. God, that's all I need, a mouse problem at the beginning. So I've got to be honest that normally when I have a microphone in my hand, I'm in a dark karaoke bar about to embark on an epic version of Carly Simon's You're So Vain. But anyway, that's not why I'm here this evening. So I've been asked to talk to you about big data. So I'm responsible for 3 teams at LanguageLine, workforce management, customer services, and the reporting analytics team. So for this purposes of this conversation, I'm going to be focused on the workforce management team. Big data is a big subject, and I just want to provide a little caveat, which is we're not talking big data at LanguageLine in the realms of organizations like Google or Facebook, but from a language access industry perspective, our data is big. So many of you may, next slide please, thanks, may not know who LanguageLine Solutions is. Some of you do. So just to give you a high-level overview, we have been the language access leaders for around 40 years, providing over-the-phone, video and on-site interpretation solutions, as well as localization and translation. We have almost 30,000 clients and are helping to facilitate 38 million interactions per year. Think about that. That's about one human connection every second via either the spoken or written word. Next slide, please. So who are workforce management, commonly known as WFM, not as we were recently referred to erroneously by one of our interpreters as the WTF team. That's a very different team. So this department basically manages the life cycle of everything that it takes to make sure that LanguageLine is adequately staffed. It starts with a forecast, 15-minute increments, 24/7, 365. We're looking at call volume, average handle time. From that high-level forecast, we're able to determine the FTE requirements that we need in any one of those increments. And from there, we use that FTE requirement to create and publish schedules to our employee interpreter base. The command center then manages the line real time. They're looking at real-time activity and reporting and tracking that back to the forecasting and other members of the team. So essentially, one big cycle, and big data is work in action right there. So what is big data? Next slide, please. So big data can be described as enormous data sets that can be analyzed computationally to reveal patterns, trends, and associations. I really liked this definition that you see on the screen behind me. Big data is a term that describes the large volume of data, both structured and unstructured, that inundates a business on a day-to-day basis. But it's not the amount of data that's important. Big data can be analyzed for insights that lead to better decisions and strategic business moves. So knowing what big data is one thing, but being able to use it in a meaningful way is another entirely. So let's look at LanguageLine's big data. 3 million plus calls per month, 450 million minutes of interpretation per year, 240 languages, 24/7, 365, 28,000 clients. Then you think about all the different system settings. So after-call wait times, rollover from video to audio times, escalation timers, taking the call from one level of interpreter to another. Interpreter connect time to an agent, call start time, call end time, call duration, abandon rates. The list is almost endless, but these are some of the data points that we use. So, okay, we know what this stuff is at a high level, but how do we use it? This slide shows perhaps the more traditional and commonly used software in this space. Variant is one of the leading solutions of workforce management software. And we use this scheduling and forecasting tool to plan those schedules by those 15-minute increments that I mentioned earlier. From a Variant big data perspective, we're looking at 102 campaigns. We have 8,700 users. We have in excess of 5,000 shift patterns, and the database itself is huge. So our system-generated notifications are sitting around 1 billion rows. The Q data history is of a similar size, and our time time-stamped transactions are around 50% of that. Now, none of this is really surprising if you think about the 38 million calls a year that I mentioned in the opening slide. Now, onto something that is perhaps a little different. LanguageLine makes huge use of a tool called Elasticsearch. Quite simply, Elasticsearch reliably and securely takes data from any source in any format and allows you to search, analyze, and visualize it in real time. The front-end interface, Caprani, allows for presentation of this data any way you like. You can search by date, time, you can look at specific comparative time segments, you look at performance trend analysis over time, and all of this is presented in really easy to use visualizations and dashboards. The command center that I mentioned earlier, responsible for real-time decision-making, relies really heavily on this tool, whilst automated alerts allow for immediate identification of potential problems. So let's think about the Elasticsearch big data. It's a 10-node cluster, essentially, 10 servers working together as one. The application, from a LanguageLine perspective, is ingesting over 1,000 new documents per second. So when I say document, think about those data points that I mentioned earlier. And a document could be any one of those things. So it could be a call record. It could be a complaint record. It could be a scheduling segment. It's basically any piece of information. So we're bringing in 1,000 pieces of information per second. Then Caprani is routinely searching 2.5 billion documents to bring back the exact specified request. And it's doing this on a sustained level at around 300 queries per second, consistently exceeding 1,000 queries per second. All of this with a search latency of sub 1 millisecond. Now, I'm not that technical. That's a lot of data, and that's really quick. So what does big data do for LanguageLine then? And it's all very interesting, I guess. But with this size of data comes the distinct danger of analysis paralysis. So how do we use this data, and how do we avoid falling into that trap? Well, from a Verint perspective, the magnitude of the data history allows us to make more informed and intelligent projections for the future. Whilst the accuracy is, of course, not guaranteed, historical trends and seasonal fluctuations do repeat over time. So the more data we feed in, the more our vision for the future improves. From an Elasticsearch perspective, it allows us to respond to real-time situations with much faster reactionary processes. We can not only see quick and easy visualizations of how our forecast compares to the actual performance, but the gaps are easily identified. The workforce management world that we live in requires second-by-second awareness of what is happening, and our big data gives us this. The real key is to have excellent ways of seeing your data, but also knowing which data points exactly need to be measured. Thank you very much. I'm now going to hand over to Rachelle.
So hi, I'm Rachelle, and I'm presenting on the life kit of a terminologist. So imagine a world without terminologists. What would happen if all terminologists suddenly disappeared off the face of the earth? Who would be affected? The translator, who would have to research terminology. The users, because they are confused about seeing inconsistent terminology. The content and product teams, because the messaging will be different across all platforms. All parties will be affected. The translations overall will be inconsistent and potentially hard to follow. The workflow would likely slow down, increasing cost and time, and leaving all stakeholders unhappy. This is just one disaster scenario that could happen, and the problem scales when we think about just how many words and products we localize each year. Hence why we need terminologists in the world. Well, what makes a good term? First things first, you need to have great guidelines on what a term is. A good term should be product and feature specific. The definition should provide the translator with all of the info that they need to translate the term accurately. You need to remember that you're creating a glossary of terms, not a dictionary. The definition should also not be too technical or long-winded. Clearly clarify the meaning of the term. And finally, remember that there will always be tricky terms. For example, in Quora, we have the terms upvote and downvote, which always don't translate as easily into other languages as you can imagine. So translators often need to get creative. So also you need to continually update and deprecate your terminology. Don't let your glossary become stale. So my experience in terminology. I worked as a terminologist at 2 large tech companies, Google and SAP, and now at a smaller startup company, Quora. What I've learned is that each company has the same challenges, whether they are big or small. It boils down to ensuring that terminology is translated consistently, being clear with your definitions, being the glossary gatekeeper, and eliminating any ambiguity for translators. Having a great terminology management system in place is half the battle. If you can manage your terminology quickly and effectively, this is going to save you time and cost. If you aren't clear with your definitions, or you choose an incorrect part of speech, your translators will be sure to let you know. As a terminologist, I got to work on exciting projects, and I was always exposed to interesting translations, even for the most mundane terminology sometimes. For example, when I worked on the Inbox by Gmail launch, I learned that the Cherokee translation for email literally translates as lightning paper, which I thought was pretty cool. Also, you get to work with a wide variety of people, and you're at the front line of any new projects. Well, what are the skills the terminologist needs to have? For me personally, in addition to language skills, communication skills are going to help because you'll be talking to a wide variety of people. Problem solving and abstract thinking are going to help because you'll be coming up with creative terminology. So the future of terminology management. What's next? As technology is constantly moving and changing, the ability to quickly and proactively mine terminology to keep up with the speed of needing content on the fly will be a challenge. I say challenge because, of course, you have machine translation, and it's important that quality is always maintained to the highest degree. We need to ensure that quality doesn't fall to the wayside. The need for more powerful and agile terminology management tools will be increasingly more important as we need to extract and import terminology at a faster pace. And finally, the sharing of knowledge between other terminologists, language professionals, linguists, and also content creators is going to help to shape the future of terminology management and continue to highlight the importance of this field. Thank you. All right. Next up is Susie.
Hi, my name is Susie. I am a localization program manager at Coursera, and I'm here to talk about how to gain cross-functional advocacy for localization at your company. So what was my problem to solve? When I joined Coursera about a year ago, we didn't have a clear process to submit course translation requests, nor did we have a clear process for the translation itself. So as a education content delivery platform, Coursera had to serve more than just the English-speaking population, obviously, but our sort of existing process existed of Gmail threads, many Gmail threads, and very sporadic Google Docs. So this wasn't obviously the most innovative solution. Next slide, please. So why couldn't I just dive in and start making changes? We are a startup company after all. Well, the challenges I had was that we didn't have enough or right data. So what that means is that we couldn't just go in and make changes as we wish. We had to have some backing up data that we can rely on to make process changes on. And then we had a pretty low priority on localization, as many of you might be familiar with. So I couldn't just request new data sets or data trackers as I needed, because again, I needed some backing reason as to why engineers or data scientists should spend that time and resource on localization. So since I'm standing here talking to you today, I must have come up with some type of a solution. Next slide, please. Right, so the first is data gathering. So like I said, we didn't have good or a lot of data that proved localization's value proposition. But what I could do instead was just utilizing what we had to draw hypotheses on correlation rather than causation between localization and important metrics that the company cares about, be that revenue or course usage data or anything like that. Next, please. And the next step was to use that data that I gathered to set up a process. And that included setting up some project priority tiers. So what that means is that, well, I am a one-woman team at my company as a localization person, and that means not every project that different teams want to work on can be prioritized the same. So I set up a few categories such as target language, the subject matter, and the content type or the partner type, etc. So that based on these different factors, I could determine which projects should get higher priority and get more time and attention. And then I had to look into the capacity, so how much work could reasonably be done at the same time. And then the next was creating a new project request form. This was actually getting to the sort of more of a direct meaning of a new process that I was trying to set up. So this was to prevent all the email back and forth communications, which more than once created problems because communications got lost. And to just have a clear and trackable process. Then next was to implement this process that I came up with. First, I came up with the draft translation request form and a new JIRA ticket type. And then next step was what I think is one of the most crucial steps in this process, which was to send these drafts to my colleagues and department heads who would actually be using these processes to request for translation. And this not only signaled respect and consideration for these people who would be using this, but it also kind of held them accountable because now that they've seen these drafts, they couldn't just say, oh, well, we can't do that, or, say something negative after it's been rolled out. And this just gives them a chance to give me useful feedback so that I can implement it as needed or as possible. So after this step, I announced the new process to the entire company as the new and only way of things. And after that, because if you implement something but don't actually follow up with enforcing it, so to speak, you don't really get anywhere. So the last piece here is to help others help themselves. So this is about documentation and knowledge base building. We use Confluence at Coursera currently, so I really focused on making all the documentation as approachable and practical as possible because we use a lot of jargon like any other industry, but most of your company's colleagues are not going to know what a TM means. They are not going to know what ESLA means. So I would say that it's important to create documentations and FAQs that are just easy to digestible to anybody who might be actually needing this information. And I will also add that show, don't tell is very important. Image or picture speaks 1,000 words. This is very true with screenshots. It's really easy to just show what a good and bad example might be as a picture of a screenshot, rather than trying to describe it in a paragraph. Right, so I have 3 takeaways from this experience. First and foremost, I would say strive for practicality over perfection. So if you, again, wait around for the perfect conditions to line up, you'll probably not get anywhere, and I probably wouldn't be speaking here about this experience today. Secondly, having even one ally on your side of localization is so crucial, and it makes such a big difference to speak to the rest of the company and sort of gather more people to your cause, basically. So try to approach other teams with a win-win mindset and respect for their time. And that means being ready to answer their questions, being ready to explain to them why this matters to them as well as to you. And the last point is to consistently promote these new processes that you might be wanting to roll out and make other teams want to use your process over whatever was happening before. So this kind of feeds into the second point again, because it's all about really making a good point about why this is not only beneficial to you, but to them as well, and how it'll just make things more efficient and desirable to everybody. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, all the speakers. Did you guys like it? Yay, thanks again. I'm gonna have you come up. So we're running a little late, but I still wanna go through some Q&A, so we'll ask the audience if you have any questions for any of our speakers.
Good evening. I think all presentation was just awesome and very diverse and very lightning, I guess. I have a question regarding the organization of your team. I've heard in previous meetings that the goal was more to have people join you as contractors rather than, hiring people as employees whenever you have needs of, local people. What do you think about that? Did I get that right? Or so are you using more contractors for localization project, or you're hiring people like in your team? You may have different answers. So the question was for everybody. My question was that my understanding from the previous meeting on the localization topic was that the people would rather hire contractors rather than, just hire employees to join their localization team. So what is your point of view?
I think it depends on the company and the availability for headcount and budget for localization. When I was at a small startup, we didn't have the luxury of being able to hire in-house people. And I had to handle not only localization, the translation part, but also quality assurance. So what I had to do was, we were lucky enough to have local community managers per country that we supported, and I actually utilized them for LQA. But it turned out that they are the best quality assurance resource available, better than hiring an outsourced LQA company, because they knew the product more than anyone else. So I think it really depends on your situation and circumstance in the team. When at Salesforce, we have localization program managers in-house because we have so many products. We have over 50 acquisitions happen within the last decade, and it's just enormous amount of volume to translate. So we do have internal in-house program managers, but but just the volume and the turnaround time is insane. So localization is, of course, it's done outsourced.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Hi, thank you for all the presentations. I have a question for Evelyn about the UGC and the use of machine translation. So you talked a little bit about the research findings that the customers would actually prefer to see even reviews in foreign language, and they find it to be helpful. I was wondering, in your experience, if the quality of those machine translated reviews actually affect the perception of customers and their perception of the values of those foreign multilingual reviews. And I also was wondering if, in your experience, if it makes sense for you to train a custom MT engine
specific for user-generated product reviews, because I would imagine the content type is so very unique when it comes to product reviews that normal generic machine translation engines would have hard time translating those things accurately.
I actually have some questions to you as a Google employer, Google employee, because I'm interested in how effective Google natural language is. But anyway, to answer your question, I think that's a really good point, asking about the quality of machine translation. And as you might have noticed, actually, my presentation is mostly based on research. And if you go to the gap.eu, our e-commerce website for the European market, we are not translating the user-generated content. So that's homework for me. And I'd like to mention my short conversation with Rachelle. We talked about if it's a good idea to use machine translation for UGC, so maybe you can add to that. And what was the second part? Yeah. Again, I think that's a really good question. And exactly because of that reason, because we need to justify the investment in using machine translation and customization of the machine translation engine, we have to look at what's the ultimate goal of using UGC. Yeah, good question.
Thank you. So my question for Rachel is, she presented us a lot of very interesting, amazing big data. Can you give us a few examples of the impact of the process of this big data on your scheduling, or anyway, examples of how this benefits your company?
Yeah, so mainly it allows, from a WFM perspective, it allows us to become more accurate. So we are scheduling around 10,000 interpreters. And so, as I mentioned, in those 15-minute increments, so the more data we have that we're feeding into the system, the more accurate the future projections get, because it's looking at seasonal trends, fluctuations, and things like that. And so it's really helping us do a better job of looking forward. Workforce management is a mixture of science and art, and that's getting the science part to do more of the work so that my team have to do less artistry on top. That's the deal. It's never going to be perfect. It's only ever going to get us so far. But from that forecasting perspective, that's what it's doing. And then the Elasticsearch data that I referenced, that's really allowing us to respond more quickly. So when things unusual or unexpected do occur, which we know they will, then we have a greater visibility into what's happening in real time, because we have more information available. You know, that the Kibana front end is allowing us to run dashboards in any which way that we like, and we've become really heavily reliant on that. I've been in the US side of the organization for 4 years, and we implemented Elasticsearch just after I joined the organization. And now it's rife, you know, its use is rife. We are heavily reliant on it. It's an amazing tool.
It sounds fascinating.
It's really great. Yeah.
Hi, I have a question for Glory. So I want to know, when you were doing your voiceover project, did you have any requests for changes while you were doing the project? And if you did, how did you manage sort of the change management process with your team?
Do you mean changes on the dubbed localized lines, or did you mean changes in English?
Well, either one. So you mentioned marketing, and I immediately thought of change management. So I was just wondering what your experience was with that when it comes to, you know, media and voiceover work.
So if I can, the first thing that comes to my mind was that, yeah, they wanted to use the ad-lib line, and I didn't have it translated. But then when I looked at the translated line in English, it's basically telling the same thing. It wasn't changing the story. It wasn't changing the plot. It wasn't changing the what we were trying to send the message to the audience. So I kept it as is. So I didn't have to change it. I think that was great because I was able to be in the recording session. So that helped me think it differently. If I didn't go, I'd probably panicked and then I'd be like, oh my God, I have to send this back to the translator and I have to re-record it. Shoot, it's gonna cost a lot of money to redo that. But it was really nice to like actually be there and watch the English recording session. And that really helped me be able to improvise and be a director myself when we were recording in Indonesian and Russian. I've never done this before. I don't know what I'm talking about, but I know the story very well. I know the character very well, which I love. So I was able to ask the voice talent, could you give more emotion? Could you and then give an extra story? Oh, this line has to be actually sad. She's sad, she's jealous, and then that really helped the voice talents to change the tone of the recording, just like perfect, it was just great. They were amazing. Another change was, there was a big change. So the marketing team decided that they extend the video. So they added clips of gameplay at the end, and then they added some. They wanted to add some captions that talks about why this game is amazing, what the highlight is about this game, and the features and the uniqueness of this game. So they wanted to add on-screen caption in English, big font. And I was like, please, don't do it. Please. We have this amazing localization done and you're ruining it. So what I had to do was add a caption. So going back to SRT, remember I said use SRT, ditch Google spreadsheet, don't ever do it. So bring back the SRT and then we added the timestamp for those added captions and then we just translate those added captions and then utilize the SRT same. So it was just adding some more lines with new translations. So that was done. And then at the end of the day, they removed it. They changed again. So they removed those. So we just simply deleted those of the SRTs, re-upload them to the YouTube videos. We were always ready. Whatever the marketing team changed, we were ready to make the changes and adjust it, but we were already all ready to go and publish worldwide in every social channel. Yeah.
All right, last question. Oh, I'll take the one nearest.
Thank you. I have a question to Glory again. I was just curious, how many languages did you localize the video game and the promo video in? I just kind of wondering how many recording sessions you had to attend, how many, this actually requires a lot of time, and I was wondering. Thank you.
So it was 14 languages, 15 including English. So the game supported 14 languages plus English. For this promo video, I had a very limited budget. And I looked at the data, which markets had the most social engagement, and it was Indonesian, Russian, Korea, Japan, and China. So I picked those 5. And I attended all 5 recording sessions except Korean because they know what they're doing. They didn't need me. They were really, I told you, it took them only a week to do that, and it's amazing, right? So I didn't even call into Korean. I knew they were gonna nail it anyway, and they nailed it. So, yeah. But I joined 4 sessions, and it was just great. And we were able to do it in an hour, for per video. You can do that, and it's great because just one session. Try to do it in one session, but it's okay to read the line multiple times in different emotions, so you can pick which one you want. Because you get to record line by line, and each file you can edit each file, right? So
Thank you. So we're running out a little bit of time, so I'm going to wrap it up, but feel free to mingle just a little bit more with the speakers directly if you have any more questions. But at this time, I want to ask you, as many of you, to come up front so we can take a nice group picture.